once again, we can say Dee Snider, the front man of Twisted Sister, as of a few hours ago. Dee, how you doing, bud?
It might be Mike over here or Mike over here. Which one?
That one, the second one was better.
This one. Okay, it's a
Yeah.
floating mic. Got this weird background. Just deal with the people. First of all, how red am I? Holy crap! I have a glorious tan. I was just down on the beach and all. I look like I'm red in this dungeon with this floating dildo in front of my face. Um, hey Eddie, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. So, Dee, I thought today when I heard the announcement, which you kind of been teasing a little bit on social media about Twist coming back, it reminded me of what I think is a very underrated film, and that is The Godfather 3 and the scene where Pacino says, "Once I'm out, they pull me back in." And you're pulled back in because for 10 years I've been talking to you and I've been seeing you do solo stuff and going up with Bret Michaels. And I'm like, dude, you can still do it. Why aren't you doing it? And you're going to do it again. So tell everybody how you reached this conclusion to once again go out with Twisted Sister.
Well, first of all, that line from The Godfather 3 is the only thing anybody remembers. Nothing, nobody quotes or can say anything other than his daughter was in there and she was terrible. Great
Not
director.
me, though. I love that movie. I could give you other quotes. I think it's super underrated, but anyway, I digress.
It wasn't kicking and screaming, and it really was a milestone thing. I turned 70 years old in March, and just, milestones are, they are what they are, but at the same time, they're reflection times for people. And me reflecting, and I realized, wow, next year is 50 years of, since I joined Twisted Sister, since we became, me, Eddie, and John, JJ, okay, became a band. And that's significant. And the offers have kept coming in, and the interest is there to have us reunite. And I called the guys up and said, what do you think? I mean, almost as a challenge to each of us to say, one more time, can we do it one more time? And certainly we've got, people like McCartney and Jagger and Alice Cooper out there, and Ozzy, may he rest in peace.
Sammy Hagar at 77.
Yeah. And say, how can you say, well, I'm 70, I'm too old. And the guy said, seriously? I said, seriously. One more time. Let's do it one more time. But Eddie, I go to quote you. I've quoted you often. You go, Dee Snider quotes me. Yes, I do.
Yeah, I didn't know.
We talked about my performing style. We talked about the type of entertainer I am. And you said, Dee, you really did paint yourself in a corner. You created a stage persona, a stage energy that people come to expect. Right. And anything less will be disappointing, not just to the audience, but to me as well. So, I'm in shape and stuff like that. And you've seen me with Bret Michaels out there, but that's 4 songs, dude.
Right, right.
It's not, 18 songs. It's not, so, but you know what? I just said, we're still here, and let's do it. Let's challenge ourselves. And we're doing it for all the right reasons. It's not about money. It's not about, it's none of those typical things. It's like, because we want to do it one more time. And there's interest there all over the world. So we're going for it, man. 2026.
So this sounds like, if I'm hearing this right, that you actually drove this. This actually came from you more than JJ or any of the other guys. That you kind of spearheaded this a little bit. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I'm not saying it like it's on. I'm the one who made this. No, I'm the one who was screaming from the top of my lungs. Never, ever. That you started. That was your introduction. He's been saying for a decade now. Never going to happen. We retired. That's it. This isn't. I'm trying to not reference any other bands and their phony baloney retirement tours. There's so many, but
Everyone.
It was not. So the guys didn't even bring it up to me, and we, and Eddie, me, and JJ, we talk all the time, and we know offers are coming in, but it wasn't even a discussion because it was accepted. Dee's not going to do it again, and I stopped doing my solo stuff as well a few years back. So, So it's basically that I said, hey guys, I'm up for it if you're up for it. And I gotta say, they both had to, Jay and Eddie had to think about it, and not like, because they too were in a certain mindset, like this is behind us now. And and then we had a group meeting on it and said, let's go for it.
So the last time Twisted played, which was billed as the final show, was about 10 years ago. And if I remember correctly, it was in New Jersey, a rainy festival in New Jersey. Or I don't know, was there a show after that? That might have been the last
one
American
show after that. It was in Monterrey, Mexico.
Okay.
It was in Mexico, and that was the final show. That was the end. That was 10 years ago, and that's a pretty solid retirement. I mean, this is sort of an anniversary shows. They're going to be. They haven't been announced yet, but I do know they're limited. We're not getting in the bus and going city to city. I'm sorry, people, and in town to town. That ship has sailed. This is going to be much more luxurious. Flying into headlining festivals around the world, and enjoying our time in these countries, including the United States. In between shows, it's not going to be the grind.
Well, and that's how a lot of bands, especially at the age of the Twisted of your band, that's how a lot of them do it now. I mean, that's not unusual at all. If you have the luxury to be able to do that, fly in, fly out, I mean, that's more the norm than not. And it also makes it more special. I mean, I do believe there's this mentality. I do believe a lot of bands over tour, and I think it hurts their draw. And there is this less is more. And if you go away for a long time, look no further than what Oasis is doing or System of a Down is doing or whatever, My Chemical Romance, and you come back after a layoff, the interest is through the roof. The audience is through the roof. The guarantees are through the roof. And you just do it more sporadically. It makes it more special when you play. You guys were doing that, though, pretty much since you came back.
Exactly. The running gag was, if we go away long enough, we'll be playing football stadiums. And we came when we first reunited. So we broke up in 2017. We got back together. It was, no, it wasn't 1997. We got back together in 2000.
New York Steel,
right? 1987.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, my math is way off. 87, New York Steel, 2001. So that was, quite a few years. And because we had not been around and we did not play much, our position on these bills was much higher than our record sales or our legacy really represented, to be quite honest. And I know there were bands at Rocklahoma and stuff who saw us headlining going, how come they're headlining? We sold more records. And they said, yeah, but you played a local bar down the block a month ago. Right. So exactly what you said, by less is more, by not playing, by, retiring, and it was a very serious retirement. 10 years is a good chunk to not be together. And again, at 50 years, and people go, what's your math? We learned about you in 1983.
Right.
Me, Eddie, and JJ, we joined forces in 1976, Valentine's Day weekend, I believe it was 1976. And that was 50 years ago. So, and, there's other bands who keep that, when we formed thing. Iron Maiden, they formed in 1976 as well. I don't remember when their first album came out. Ed, was it 80? 80. Okay. I remember we were looking for our deal when I heard Killers, like, whoa, this band's amazing. Zebra, 50-year, they're out doing 50-year anniversary. They started in 1976 as well. So, when you're in the band, those years matter, because those were the tough years. Those first, for us, Twisted especially, that first 8 years together before we broke through, that was brutal. That was biting your nails, going. I remember those meetings going, maybe we should give up, and then everybody's saying, well, what else can we do? We've dedicated our lives to this. We got out of high school and we started rocking, playing bars, and that's what we know how to do. So what else can we do? So, and we just kept going, and fortunately it paid off.
Yeah, if you guys don't know about the history of Twisted Sister prior to Stay Hungry, all you got to do is watch the Twisted Sister doc about all the early club days. And me being a guy that grew up in New Jersey, I was well aware of the band and what you guys were doing on the circuit. Even though I was too young to go to those shows, but I was well aware of it. And it was an 8-year overnight success when Stay Hungry came out, or 10-year overnight success, or what have you. So there is a lot of history there. So Dee, I'm curious. So last time you guys play, it is 10 years ago. You're 70 years old now. You were 60 then, and you were questioning whether at that point, because you told me more than one time, you're worried about maintaining that standard that you set, that corner you painted yourself into. So now, as you're about to go out and do shows at 70 on what will be, and for people that don't know, Twisted is way bigger in Europe than you are even in America. You headline and play huge festivals over there. You're playing huge stages. You're 70. You got to still be out there being Dee Snider. What's the regimen going to be like? How do you feel about it? I see we're doing this on Zoom. I can see Dee shaking his head and smiling. Are you confident? I mean, you're always a confident guy. You think you're about to pull it off, or what do you think? What's the regimen?
If you've seen the website, the announcement page, it's a flat line. And then the heartbeat slowly starts coming back in.
God forbid.
That's not by accident. That's not by accident. When Twisted retired, I remember shows where, we was doing our farewells around the world, and people were crying in the audience because I'm saying, this is really it, guys. We're done. And people would cry. I go, listen, I want a pancake. Look at me. I'm ripped to shreds. I want a carb. I'm going to re-record. I want to rock. I want a carb. I said, you know what it takes to look like this? It's painful. It sucks. And I was 60 years old, and I'm like, wow, he's ungodly shape. Yeah. And I was miserable. So I'm not going to tell you, once I was done with that shirt probably will never come off again. I mean, I've been enjoying life. I've been out, and COVID hit, and I was always very regimented with working out, and workouts that became, because it was tough to go to a gym. You had to get unless you had your own gym, it was tough to go to a public gym, and and all of a sudden I fell out of the pattern. So I'm being totally honest here. At 70, I said, this can't be it. I need to challenge myself to, just to go out in a blaze of glory. Bon Jovi, but really, so really, I'm going, okay, March, called the guys. What do you say? Let's do it. We talked. All right, let's do it. When are we going out? Next late spring, summer. Good. I've got like a year to get in shape. So I'm back in the gym. And I'm not you can just see by my face.
I can clearly see you have not let yourself go, Dee. You still look like you haven't had a slice of pizza in 10 years.
I'm not a slum. That's not true. I had 2 last night, and they were awesome. But I haven't gone, but still, there's a big difference between going out and doing 4 songs with Bret Michaels and holding the stage for 20 songs, so it's going to be a challenge. And, but I sure don't want to embarrass myself, and the band doesn't want to embarrass itself. So, people, you will be impressed. I promise I will make some 20-year-olds feel really badly about themselves.
Well, and I told you last time I saw you, I think it was in Cancun when you went up with Brett at maybe less than a year ago at the Sands. And I said, you came off. I said, dude, you can still, there's people out there. Well, I'm not going to name names, but they're 10 years younger that are just, shouldn't be out there anymore, whether it's vocally, physically, what have you. But, even if it's for 4 songs, you still got it, man. I had no doubt that you could do this. I'm fully confident you will not embarrass yourself.
Well, that meant the world to me. But I also don't want to be a statistic. To quote the latest Spinal Tap, if 1 or 2 of you could die on stage, you'll cement your legacy. Because I was saying to my wife, she goes, "Are you, Suzette? If I want to talk about 50 years, that's another 50-year celebration next year, Suzette and I." are together 50 years. I met her shortly after I joined Twisted. We've been together ever since.
Wow.
And she said, "Are you worried at all? I mean, I'm in good shape, but when they're called neuro associations. They're called triggers. Everything about a Twisted show is a trigger for me and sort of puts me in a mindset. Well, from the opening salvo, if it's a long way to the top, if you want to rock and roll, the audience, the lights, the beginning of what you don't know shook and hurt you, and my heart starts racing and my mind starts thinking it's 20 again, and she goes, "Are you worried that you're going to like hurt yourself going out there? Because your brain is going to be thinking, I'm still in my 20s. And I said, "I don't know, but if you're going to go," speaking of Spinal Tap, that'd be a good way to go. But I always used to say to the guys, because I had such antics on stage that sometimes I fall on the floor, I'm rolling around on the floor. The guys just keep playing. And if I actually had a heart attack and went down, they go, "Oh, that D, he's such a character, writhing around on the stage, acting like he's in agony." Until the EMTs came and carried me off. JJ and Eddie would probably go, "Oh, he was serious?"
It reminds me of a story Jimmy Crespo once told me when he was playing in Aerosmith. He had just joined the band, and he said that Tyler was on the ground and looked like he was doing this bit where he was passed out from exhaustion on the ground. And he's not getting up, and he's not singing the next line. And Crespo was new to the band; he didn't know what was going on. He said he was still playing. He went over, he was kicking him in the ribs, saying, "Hey, you getting up or what?" It turned out that Tyler was so loaded on drugs, he just absolutely passed out in the middle of the set. So you don't want that kind of stuff to happen without a doubt.
I'm gonna you see him. What's that he's wearing around his neck? It's one of those devices.
Life alerts.
The life alerts. Press the button. I've fallen and I can't get up.
You could sell those at merch, D. Put a little TS on them. Let's get Danny. Danny's listening right now. Danny, get on that right now.
TS life alert.
Exactly.
But you know what? This all said, it's the spirit of this thing is so positive. Eddie, me, and Jay. It's so it's like I said, we're doing it for all the right reasons, and I wasn't the easiest guy to get along with back in the 80s. I was a lot better in our reunion when we reunited, and the guys, I hope they'll attest that D left his asshole back in the 80s. But it's certainly we're excited about it, and it's going to be fun. And we're coming back for the fun, not for the back in the 80s, I was just so driven by anger and hate, and I was really mad at everything and everybody, and everybody suffered for it. But now it's really more joyful than anything else.
Let's talk about the lineup, because as you mentioned, it's yourself, Eddie, and JJ. Tragically, we all know that we lost AJ a number of years ago. Mike Portnoy, who I was just with a couple weeks ago, Mike and I were actually talking, and I said, if there was a hypothetical Twisted Sister reunion, I said, you probably couldn't do it because he's now back in Dream Theater. And he goes, "Yeah," he goes, "I love those guys, but I don't think it would work." But you announced on drums is Joe Franco returning to the band, who of course played in Twisted Sister. So tell us a little bit about the decision to bring Joe back.
Well, let's just say first about Mike. He was the first choice. He was AJ's choice. And for people who don't know this story, I've told you, Eddie, but we were playing out infrequently. We would do maybe 20 shows a year, and they were big money shows. So it came up and said, "Hey, what happens if we get these big money shows, they're headline shows, and what if someone can't make it? Do we cancel a show like that?" So it was decided that everybody would hand pick their replacement. And everybody had a person that was selected to stand in for them. I couldn't find anybody to take the job for me. There's
no way that happens. Stop right there. There's no Twisted Sister show without Dee Snider. I don't care who you find.
I begged Sebastian Bach. I said, "Dude, you can do it."
Well,
he goes, "I don't care if I can do it. That's a thankless job. I am not standing in for you." The only person who said yes? My son, Jesse. Jesse said, "I'll do it." And
Baz, you're right, though, on Baz. Baz might be Baz might be the guy. Like I said to Sebastian, Motley Crue is about to start here in Vegas at the end of the week. And I was like, we don't know what's going on with Vince, but if something happened, to me, Baz is the only guy could step in there. And with you, and of course you're such an influence on him, I could see him, as a one-off, as a fill-in. But yeah, there's no Twisted Sister without Dee Snider. Let's keep that straight.
But to that point, AJ chose Mike Portnoy. And, and Mike said, yeah, he would do it. And, he would stand in. And this was just, okay, Mike Portnoy. And like 6 months later, he dies, And so it seemed like he had picked his replacement. Joe Franco, who we've known forever and had played with Twisted and was a friend of the band, was a logical person to go to. He was the last drummer in Twisted Sister, but AJ had selected to be his replacement, Mike Portnoy. So Mike was the guy. And class act, I will say this to everybody. I say it all the time. He studied AJ's drums live, only played what AJ played, didn't hit one beat different, nothing. Refused to play a drum solo. He says, I will not play a drum solo. So we had one of the final AJ performances we had filmed, and we would lower a screen when that point came, and AJ would play the drum solo each night. And that wasn't a dry eye in the house for that one. But anyway, so much respect for Mike, and he was our logical choice. But Mike, exactly, he's with Dream Theater. His dance card is always full. It could not be more full than that. So we're sitting there, well, who are we going to get? And then we just looked at each other and said, Franco. I mean, he was the guy we would have gone to in the first place. So we called up Joe, and he was like, dude, I'm already warming up. So Joe Franco's back in the fold.
And the one guy not mentioned in the press release and not talked about here is your bass player, Mark Mendoza. You have a different bass player that's been announced. I don't have his name right in front of me. You can fill me in on that. But what's the story with Mendoza?
I can only simply say irreconcilable differences, and leave it at that. I can't get into the weeds, and I can't go down that path, and I won't. But irreconcilable differences, and people change, and however it is, I'm not saying he changed. Maybe we changed, whatever it is. So in deciding who to use on bass, my bass player on the last two Dee Snider albums, For the Love of Metal and Leave a Scar, was Russ Pizzuto. And he was Mark Mendoza's bass tech, and a great bass player. And it's funny thing is, I didn't even when I was putting together the band for the Love of Metal, Charlie and Nikki, they auditioned people, and Russ just showed up for the audition and got the audition. And I walked in and I thought he was there to tech. I go, hey, what are you doing here, man? And he goes, I'm your bass player. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, man, I got the gig. So he did an amazing job on those two albums. He was a great guy to tour with. The band all knew him from years of working with Twisted. And again, he seemed like a likely choice. As a matter of fact, one time he was Mark's choice to fill in for him. And one gig, it was in Belgium at Grass Pop. And Mark couldn't make it, and Russ stepped in and played with Twisted. So he actually has performed with Twisted once before.
I know you said you can't say too much on Mendoza, so I'm not going to press you on it, but is there a scenario you think where he could pop up at a show, or that the irreconcilable could be reconciled at some point, or do you think that's not going to happen?
I can't imagine it right now. I can't imagine it right now. It's yeah, I mean, I plead the fifth. I can't go beyond that, but things have happened that I don't see being reconciled. Hence the term irreconcilable differences.
Let me ask you about
the word doesn't. By the way, Eddie, I hope that word doesn't pop up in a voiceover. Irreconcilable, because I can't seem to say it.
Let me ask you about the performance. When you guys go out and do this, you're going full on Twisted Sister. You're going makeup, costume, the whole thing, or stripped down. What's the performance going to be like as far as the image?
A middle ground. Suzette, who did all the makeup and costumes, and the bone logo that you're seeing still used today, which she was never paid for, by the way. She, she she said, "I want you guys to do more than I've seen you do in the final days of Twisted. In the final days of Twisted, a lot of the guys were really down to just black jeans and a black leather vest. And not me. I always like to throw a little pizzazz. But so she's working on costumes for the tour, for the shows. She would like to see us. And by the way, again, people, it's Suzette who kept pushing me to try more and more crazy. Oh, can we curse? By the way, I've been cursing.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can.
Crazy shit. Oh, with the makeup. So I'm dating her. I'm dating this hot chick. And she's going, hey, why don't you try a little lipstick? I'm like, I'm not putting lipstick on. She goes, no, like gloss. Just some gloss. I'm like, all right, I'll put some gloss on. So I put gloss on. And she had this little tray. It had about 8 or 10 different colors and started with clear gloss. It ended with screaming red. And as each one wore out, I moved over to the beige. And then I moved over to the tan. Then I moved over to the pink. And by the end, I had red lips. And it was red lips for like years, decades of red lips. And the same with nail polish. She goes, you should wear nail polish. I'm like, I'm not wearing nail polish. She goes, that's gay. We said that in the 70s. Right. Then she goes, no, black. Black's cool. Well, black turned to blue, turned to purple, turned to pink. And then I had pink fingernails for years. And so I keep, got the hot chick just steering me down the path of righteousness, going, you should do something with your eyebrows. I'm not doing anything with my eyebrows. And next thing you know, I got these huge eyebrows. You should put some color on your lids. So anyway, Suzette is like, I think you guys should, she's not saying we should go back to what we wore in the 80s, but she said, I think that, you should pay homage, maybe age appropriate, some lipstick on the teeth. Like your old aunt, so, but I said, all right, well, here I go again, right? Oh, well, all right, we'll talk about it. So we're talking about it. So I'm not sure where that's going to go, but I know we're definitely, it's definitely going to be more of a middle ground from the end of the Twisted the first time around.
So we talked about we talked about the visual, we talked about the physical, and let's talk about the vocal aspect of it, because I've never seen you not be able to nail the stuff vocally. But as you just said, the last 10 years, you've been doing things here or there. You've been getting up, doing 3-4 songs with Brett or whatever. Vocally, you feel confident you're not going to have a problem singing the catalog and doing a 90-minute set or whatever you have to do?
No.
You don't.
Promoters, take note. At this point right now, nope. But I am... I'm gonna start, singing more and longer, and and start, I'm actually, because we're scattered now. Eddie's in Nashville, Jay's still in New York, and I'm in North Carolina now, and so I'm actually getting a local pickup band to go in, once a week and run through the set, so every week for a while, so I can get that back, because it's been too long, and that is like anything. But you know what? Whether it's an athlete or a performer or a vocalist, you got to get into fighting weight, and fighting weight is that place you are when you're in season in football, or you're actually having a championship bout, or you've got to get there. And right now it's off season. It's been off season for a while, so. But I'm definitely, like I said, I'm not about to embarrass myself. I can't, and then I can't. I can't disappoint people. I can't disappoint myself. So I'll be ready.
Probably too early to talk about the set list and what you're going to play, and that might be contingent on how much time you have, whatever the setting is.
I got a goodie on this one.
But
I got a good answer for you.
Yeah, you got some stuff you're going to put in that you haven't done. Maybe you're going to do some stuff from Love Is for Suckers because Joe's in the band, or what are you thinking?
There will be. We will honor that record and Joe. I did something. It just popped in my head. Ask AI. So I worked with ChatGPT, asking it what were the most downloaded, biggest selling, most streamed Twisted Sister songs all over the world. And there was the expected, but there were some surprises in there. And I'm not going to tell you what the surprises were, but I spent many hours because you could teach ChatGPT as you refine it, because at first there were some cover songs that popped up and Christmas songs. Like, all right, no Christmas songs, no covers, no duplicates. There's three we're not going to take. It's in there. No, just the one. So I actually put the set list together using AI to figure out what people are listening to around the world. What Twisted songs are their favorites?
I would imagine you see that in the streaming data too. I mean, I'm thinking. Tell me if I'm right on the top three. Obviously, we're not going to take It's got to be one. I Want to Rock has got to be two, and I would almost say The Price is at three. Do I have that right?
Yeah. Yes. The top ones are obvious,
right?
But then there's others that that were surprising. So that's others that were really surprising, and it was kind of cool to see those surprises. So and I think the audience will be pleased. And again, I mean, AI is and this is using it, not it using me. And I was having this discussion on social media recently. I said, someone said, well, it helps me create my songs. I said, well, over your songs and it's helping you get them down, that's fine. But if you're just saying, hey, AI, write me a song, like, we're not going to take it, and then you're sitting back and going, this is my song, that's not creative on any level. But here, I know that AI is accessing so much data with the streaming and the downloading and the sales over the years, and chart positions and all those things that really incorporate all that. The interesting one, Eddie, was Spotify. Now, I hate Spotify because that piece of shit who owns it pays nothing. And his response to, artists complaining that they don't get any money, he says, write more music.
All right.
Like the answer, first of all, it's bottles of Coke. You want to sell more Coke? Produce more bottles of Coke. No, it's not like that. It's not a spigot. You don't just turn it on. Although I have said that about myself. But be that as it may, it's a different thing. But Spotify has the weird, I don't know what their algorithm is, but they go deep. I'll give them credit on that. They're paying me shit on some songs that nobody ever hears. So on that front, I had to actually remove Spotify from the mix because they were skewing the whole thing. And as Eddie, people like yourself, my brother Mark out there would have said, wait a minute, those are our favorite songs, the ones, the deep cuts. But I was trying to find something dealing with the audience we're dealing that people were actually listening to. I don't like when bands are so self-indulgent that they don't read the room. And I'm not going to name names on that one either, but there was an Iron Maiden tour. Some people may remember. Did I name names? But that's kind of famous, that one where they did, right. Was it
the entire new album? I think it was A Matter of Life and Death. They played their entire new album. But they refused to play anything but. Was it the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner? Or was it one of those? No, but there was one tour where they did the entire full album and then a couple songs at the end, and yeah, that was a big controversy. And the audience was upset, and Bruce was, and Bruce and I are friends. We spoke to him recently, but Bruce, was upset with the audience, and I get that, but I've always been one of those guys is read the room, give the people what they want, don't tell, don't. I mean, other people say, hey, we're the artists, they don't know what they want. I think they do. And it said in the press release, likely before you do the big shows, there will be a couple Bent Brother shows. And for people that don't know, Bent Brother are warm-up dates where you don't do the big costumes and all that, but you come out and play in a club or what have you. So that's something that'll, I would imagine, help you kind of get your mojo going again before you go do a big show. You planning to do that?
The guys feel really strongly about that. We played so many club shows. And I swear my hair still smells like cigarettes and stale beer. Okay. It says I can't get it out. And I dread going. People, oh, don't you love the intimacy? No. Look at the size of my head. It was designed for arenas. It was designed my head. You don't need a jumbotron with this head. Okay, I mean, I am designed for an arena. I played so many bars. There was a time when I was a kid where I was so happy to be in a bar, but no, if I never see another one. But the guys feel strongly that it's important just to have that shakeout, and we got the idea actually from Blue Oyster Cult.
Right. Soft white underbelly. Soft white underbelly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. When they were warming up for a tour, people, and they would go out, play a local place, my father's place usually, as a soft white underbelly. And those in the know knew soft white underbelly, it's the Cult, Blue Oyster Cult, and you went down to see the show because it was Blue Oyster Cult. So, our promotion on Bent Brothers shows when we first did them was Twisted Sister never misses a Bent Brothers show. It's our favorite tribute band. They're the best. No one plays Twisted Sister better than Bent Brothers.
And just so people listening who across the country understand, when he says my father's place, they didn't play Dee's father's place. That was the name of a rock club in Long Island.
There's another club that has that problem is the club Detroit in Port Chester, New York.
Oh, I never heard of that one.
Yeah, well, there was a club called Detroit, and right there, they released, in releasing, we're the Tupac Shakur of heavy metal. We've got so many things being released, and they just released Live at Detroit album, which was recorded on a local radio station, 1977, I think, or 78, WLIR on Long Island, broadcast live. But people see it and they go, oh, I heard that concert in Detroit. No, it was Detroit, New York, Port Chester, New York, as the club was called Detroit.
So I know on Twisted there's no dates that are announced yet, but obviously there's some that are booked and can't be announced, and it's going to be a mix of stuff in America, Europe, other parts of the world. I imagine a lot of festivals. I mean, is that really what we're looking at for the most part?
Yes, we are. And I know a lot of dates. I think the reason they're not being announced is, I think, because I'm not as hands-on as I once was, is I think that the venues themselves,
the event's not announced.
Them to announce.
Right. The event itself isn't announced.
But there's a whole bunch of dates, as I said, and and they're big festivals, and some of the usual suspects. I can say, I will not. You could say, if you say names of them, Eddie, I won't deny or confirm, but you can around the world. You expect to see us at a lot of the usual venues, festivals.
Right. One last thing before I let you go, Dee, unrelated to Twisted, but talking about makeup and nail polish and all of that. Today is the 50th anniversary of the release of Kiss Alive, which is crazy. Give me a few minutes on that, the impact that had on you when you heard it, because you were already on the scene kind of, but trying to get things sorted out as a kid, and I'm sure figuring out where you were going to go with your own career. But I know you've often talked about the impact that record had on you and so many.
I was already a Kiss fan, and Kiss Alive came out, and you got to remember, this is a time where there's no video, there's no MTV, there was no in concert, 1975. So what you had was people talking about what they saw. Right. You had to go to a show to see the event that was Kiss, and people would. And at that point, I had not seen the band live, but people would talk about it, and you would just, the imagination. And by the way, I don't think you could imagine it was as crazy as it was, but that Alive album, the pictures on it were so great. And looking at those photos, now you're seeing real, not like Cream Magazine or Rock Scene, but some vivid color pictures of this band and the Gene with the blood dripping down, and it was just, and then to put on the album, I mean, it was inspiring. And 75, I'm working at Corvette's department store. I am at the lowest point in. I had been in a club band, crashed and burned, had to move home with my parents because, I had no money, and I was working on the loading dock at a department store, and that album came out, and it was just I'm sitting there, man. I get how much do we miss album covers? Something substantial to hold in your hands, and younger people listening. Well, you've seen LPs, that was an event in itself to peel that cellophane off, and if it was a gatefold sleeve, open that thing off and read every detail that was written in there, every bit of information you could just glean from the jacket in itself. And Kiss Alive was that. I mean, it was that kind of album.
The notes inside, the handwritten notes, there's like, oh my God, they're really demons. He's writing a story to us. And then I remember as growing up such a big Kiss fan, I used to tell people all the time, first thing I would do when I got a Kiss record is open it, the cellophane on the side, and shake it because they'd only have stuff that would fall out. A book, tattoos, order form for merch, the love gun, whatever. And with the Live, they had that booklet in there. And then you looked at, I used to the cover was one thing, which was a stage shot. I always thought that was a live shot, but it was actually staged. But I used to stare at the back cover because you'd see the kids holding the homegrown sign, and then you'd look, like I'd scour that audience, and you'd see like, one guy who's sitting there with like a joint in his hand like this, the clothes they're wearing. It's so 75. It's Cobo Hall in Detroit, and just that whole scene is just puts you in that. And then you listen to the record, and you're like, I'm there. I'm in that building right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, it an amazing record. It was so well put together. And, I got to tip our hats. Eddie Kramer.
Yes. Who worked with you guys.
Kramer. Yeah. When you talk about live albums, Woodstock. He did the Woodstock album. I mean, he's mixed so many great, great live albums. And he really is just, and he produced the very first Twisted demo of any with I'll Never Grow Up on it and everything. So we worked with Eddie at Electric Lady Studios, which was amazing because Eddie helped build that studio with Jimi Hendrix, brings us in there to do a demo, and he pulls some strings, and we've got the Cars in there, we've got the Stones recording Some Girls down the hallway. I remember Jagger coming and chicken dancing through our room. I still not sure it happened, but the door opened, and because he knew Eddie, so so he just throw the door open. He like chicken dances around the room and back out the door again while we're trying to do a mix. But but Eddie Kramer is just and he's just has such a catalog of amazing records and music he's responsible for. So.
And he's still working. He's still working. He's working with a new band with Orianthi. He just came out with they just announced yesterday a Hendrix thing he mixed in Atmos. So he's like 80, 81 years old, still going strong, and still one of the greats. But yeah.
JJ has a podcast, by the way, a French Connection, worth checking out, people. And he does one of his podcasts was with Eddie Kramer, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I think in that Eddie broke the news that he's working on a new version of Kiss Alive where he's going to gather up all the shows that they recorded that they didn't use.
Amazing. So great dude, what a talent. And I just wanted to recognize that. These, sonically, these records, because that was part of it, is that it felt alive. I know it was alive, but it really just came through the speakers. So many times live albums gets lost in the recording, but Kramer really figured out how to put it together. And I got to say, those amazing photos, staring at those photos and listening, to "Come On and Love Me,"
Yeah, it's just the best. Anything you want to mention before I let you go? I know you've got, I think Danny mentioned you got a signing show or something coming up as well. You're doing a couple of those?
Yeah, I'm at Horror Hound. Is that what it's called? This weekend. Actually, Bruce Dickinson is there. He's there on Friday. Me and Geezer are there on Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be great to see Geezer. Okay. Well, I love you, Ed, and we're both radio show hosts, and so I got it. We're gonna now I'm gonna switch hats. Now I'm gonna be the host, and you're gonna be the guest. Okay. God bless Ozzy. And this is no slander. People, please just reel it in. It's a conversation. Um, I watched the live broadcast. It was really tough to watch. And I don't know if I want to see every one of my heroes um, go to the bitter end and do a show for me. And Ozzy chose to, and people loved it. But I was in tears, man. I was in, and when he was singing "Mom, I'm Coming Home," there wasn't a dry eye in that audience, and there wasn't a dry eye in North Carolina. Okay, I mean, it was painful, and Ozzy was breaking down. It was really, and I just, what was your feeling about it? If you feel comfortable talking.
Well,
about it.
the overall event I thought was fantastic. His performance, and you look, I had Tony Iommi on this show. To my knowledge, the only interview Tony did since the whole thing happened right after. And at that time, of course, Ozzy hadn't passed away at that time, but Tony had said that he really wished that Ozzy didn't do a solo set, that he wished, because he said Sabbath were prepared to do 6-7 songs. And I think a lot of people forgot that event was originally about Bill Ward. It was originally about the original Sabbath. That's what Ozzy really wanted, the original 4 guys to play one last time. So Tony said they were prepared to do more songs, but since Ozzy, then it kind of pivoted towards an Ozzy tribute as well, and he decided to do his own set before. Yeah. Because I even said to Tony, I was shocked that they were back to back. I figured if he was going to do that, let him do that at 4 p.m, get a few hours break, then come out and do Sabbath. Tony said, so was I. He said, but the whole thing kind of took like a little bit of a different turn for whatever reason. I understand, because I always say, Dee, I don't want to see the artists I love stay too long at the party. I'd rather see them end than be a shell of what they once were on stage. I've always said that. As a fan, that's how I feel. But this is different because it's something that clearly he wanted so badly. And if you think about it, the guy had a living funeral. I mean, he had a funeral while he was still alive. No one knew he was going to die. And I said to this
was his choice. This was his choice. It wasn't. Yeah. It's not a judgment on Ozzy, and I'm so, as an OG day one Sabbath fan, that people forget. When they first came out, they were disregarded by a lot of people. They were considered a joke. And that was because now heavy metal was taking a shape, with Sabbath. And I was one of those people who said, no, screw Country Joe and the Fish, Black Sabbath. I had a band that only played Black Sabbath in junior high school. I love this band. To see them as the years went on, grunge really brought a different attention to them, and people started to look at them differently. And to get the respect they deserve, to have these blue-collar guys from Birmingham be honored like that in their hometown, I was so proud as a fan. And if ever a band deserves it, it's Black Sabbath, okay? Don't get me wrong at all. It was just, I'm just saying that as a fan, it was tough for me.
It was hard.
Watch.
Yeah, and I agree. It was. And the other thing I thought about in retrospect is, thank God he didn't die on stage. I mean, the guy had a heart attack, and he's animated, and he's excited. He's pumping his arms up. Thank God. That would have been just beyond awful. Hey, I'm hearing my end music. I got to wrap it up. But
sorry, brother. Oh, and Ozzy's voice was incredible. His voice was incredible. Just want to say.
Yeah. Always great to talk to you, man. And welcome back.
Thanks, brother. One more time.
One more time. Happy 50th, and to Twisted Sister as well. And we'll learn more about the shows as they get announced. Good talking to you, man. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, man. Bye.
All right. There he goes, everybody. Dee Snider, Twisted Sister are back, as you heard. Like I always say, no band ever ends. Reunion tours, contracts, holograms, avatars, slot machines. How much more proof do you need? But I know that guy, and he will step it up to make sure the performance is good.